Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Start of February, start of a new month. I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to it. This month, my pens are all themed around Chinese pens. There's a bit of a price variation in them as well, so hopefully there's something for most budgets. We'll take a look at each pen, and then for each of those, we'll do a little bit of writing. So join me now down on the mat, and let's jump straight in. So welcome down to the mat. It's time to jump in and look at the pens I'm going to be using during February of 2022. So the first pen is this one. This is a Bauer 51. This cost me $5 Australian, so a fairly inexpensive pen. I love the simplicity of the colours of this. So there's a lot of silver colouring, but then these black stripes just add a little bit of interest. Let's take off the cap. There we can see we've got this smallish nib there. So I would think a number 5 size nib. Very thin section, so that's something I maybe need to look at as I'm going through the month. And this is a cartridge converter pen. Let's jump in and do some writing. So we've got the Bauer 51 with a fine nib. And as I said, it cost me $5 Australian. The ink in here by Diamine, and it's Merlot. Nice wine named pen. So it's a darkish ink, and it's got this hints of purple coming through, especially as I write with it more. Now the pen has been sat for a couple of days. I have scribbled with it just before I started. So I think the ink is still a little bit dark because of that. But you can certainly see when we get down to the Merlot, that purple coming through. Let's take a look at drying times. So immediate. You can see a lot more of that purple there, can't you? 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Almost dry there, only the slightest smudge coming off. For completeness, 1 minute. After a minute, well, we expected that, it's nice and dry. So this is the Bauer 51 with Diamine Merlot. My second pen for February is this. This is the Kaiko Edge. $10 Australian for this one. The material is Makrolon, which is the same material that a Lamy 2000 is made from. And I've got to be honest, I think this pen is meant to be heavily inspired by that Lamy 2000. Now, I don't have a Lamy 2000 to compare it against. People have suggested that I get one, so maybe eventually. Again, the cap it pulls off reveals a fairly small nib, so definitely very different to the Lamy 2000 now. Again, we've got a cartridge converter. Do some writing. So we've got the Kaiko, the Edge. Now you can see, if I can spell, you can see a definite difference in the line width because this is a medium nib. It's unusual, or certainly I found it's unusual to be able to get a medium nib from a Chinese pen. Most of them seem to be fine or extra fine. So I'm glad when my wife got this for me, because she got me this as a gift. Glad she was able to get a medium nib. It cost $10 Australian. The ink is another one by Diamine. I do like Diamine inks. And this is Earl Grey. I didn't want to put a black ink in here because the body, it isn't black, it is grey. And I thought, well, Earl Grey, what a lovely combination this will be. And so far in my testing, I've really enjoyed this. I obviously need to see how it goes throughout the rest of the month though. Drying times, immediate. You can see that gorgeous grey there where I smudge it. 10 seconds. Wow, that's dried off an awful lot, hasn't it? 30 seconds. Well, 30 seconds and that's nice and dry. I think this is going to be a really good combo for doing my note taking throughout the month, because as we can see, how quick it dries means I don't need to worry when I'm turning pages about waiting for one page to dry before I flip it over. I think it'll dry by the time I've actually been able to do the action of turning it over. So I think, yeah, this looks like a possible good note-taking combo. But this is the Kaiko Edge with Diamine Earl Grey. Just going to move the paper up slightly. There we go. So pen number 3 for February is this one. This is a Wingsun 698. It's a piston filling pen. So hopefully you can see the piston mechanism through this fairly dark translucent material. One of the downsides with this, and I think it's the same with all pistons, but because you can actually see the mechanism, the piston mechanism, it takes up maybe half to 2/3 of the actual body, which does limit the amount of ink. Let's take off the cap. This one, it's got a steel nib. Again, I think the section looks a bit on the thin side, so that's something I need to watch out for during the month. So this is a Wingsun .698. I had that little bit of an issue when I started writing. Could be because I've had the cap on and off a few times since I last wrote with this, which was about 10 minutes before I started filming. The nib, well, it's another fine nib. So we're back to those fine nibs. How much did this cost though? It costs 24 Australian dollars. So what I'm doing as we go through the pens, they are getting progressively more expensive, but we can see the jumps that we're getting. The ink, well, strangely enough, it's by Diamine. And it's Sherwood Green. In this pen, I do see quite a bit of shading coming through this ink. I mean, you can see it here. Look at the G, the S for sun, the G here, the E's. So there's a fair bit of shading coming through already. Given it's a fine nib, I'm really pleased with that. Let's look at our drying times. Immediate. 10 seconds. Looks nearly dry after 10 seconds. I'm going to do 30 seconds just for completeness. 30 seconds, wow, yeah, nice and dry there. So this is the Wingsun 698 with a steel nib and Diamine Sherwood Green. Pen number 4. This is, I'm going to be honest, one of my favourite pens. This is a Hongdian 960. I love that this is just black. I don't have many pens that are black because they can be a bit boring. But with this, I love the blackness, but then you've got that gold colour, which just offsets it really nicely. It's a nice, simple design. Let's take off the cap. Here we've got a number 6 size nib. It's 2-tone. I will be honest with nibs, I do like 2-tone nibs. Yet again, it's another fine nib because I wasn't able to get anything other than fine. Let's do our writing. So here we have a Hongdian 960 with that fine nib. Again, slight jump in price. We're up to 35 Australian dollars. The ink is by a Welsh company called Pure Pens. And it's Celtic Sea. I love this ink. In this pen, in my previous testing I've done with this, you may have seen this in a few videos lately, it's got gorgeous shading coming through. I've had this same ink in a Leonardo Memento Zero Grande with a medium nib. See no shading, but in this particular pen, this is so nice. There's so much character when I'm writing. Let's look at drying times. So immediate. 10 seconds. Well, again, it's another one almost dry at 10 seconds. I'm going to leave it for 30 now. And after 30 seconds, as we would expect, that's plenty dry enough. So between the last three really, the Kaiko Edge, the Wingsun 698 and this, I've got some good choices there for note taking. So this one is the Hongdian 960 with Pure Pens Celtic Sea. Just going to reposition the paper one last time. There we go. We can now get the bottom two in. Actually, let me just pull that back a bit. The reason for that will become evident in a few minutes. Pen number 5. This, I've got to be honest, is one of my favourite pens. It's the Moonman M800. This is in the amber colour. I've got this in all 4 colours that are available. I love the shape of this pen. I love the fit of this pen in my hand. I know I'm jumping ahead to the wrap up, but this just feels so comfortable to use. It's another one. It's a cartridge converter. There we go. Number 6 size nib on there. Again, 2-tone nib. Looks different than the Hongdians. So again, it's just drawing that bit of interest to it. This nib, it's by Bock and it's a fine nib. You pay extra for the Bock fine nib when you're getting this pen. I've got to be honest, I do think it's worth paying the extra because, yes, it's $10 more, but you're getting more than $10 worth of nib, unless you're willing to go and buy your own nibs. And again, then it's easy to swap them because they just pull out and easily push back in. So here we have a Moonman M800 with a Bock fine nib. We're jumping up in price, up to a whopping 66 Australian dollars. Quite a big jump, that one. The ink by J. Herbin. And it's Terre de Fouet or Terre de Feu. So this Terre de Fouet, that actually translates to Land of Fire. And certainly it's got that brown colour, so it's got the earthy colour. But I can see hints of red when I'm writing with this, where you can start seeing that fire colour coming in. Again, we can see here, it looks like it's a really nice shading ink. I haven't done too much testing with this pen yet, so that's something I'm looking forward to doing because, as I said, this is one of my favourite pens. Let's look at our drying times. Immediate, 10 seconds. It's another one that's nearly dry. For completeness, 30 seconds. There we go, 30 seconds, and that's lovely and dry. So this is the Moonman M800 with J. Herbin Terre de Fouet. Just going to give that a final twirl, just so you can see the gorgeous resin in there. The last pen for today, and the reason why I've positioned the paper as I have. This is another Wing Sung 698. This is in this grey colour. I will be honest with you, it's not a very inspiring colour. When I saw the photo of it when I was ordering this, it looked like it was a pale blue, so I thought, yeah, that's not too bad. When it came and it was just this flat grey, I've got to be honest, I was a bit disappointed, but the nib makes up for it. So like the other Wing Sung 698, this is a piston filler. Unlike the other 698, this has got a 14 karat gold nib on it. And that nib makes a big difference. Not just in price, but also the writing experience. Talking about writing, what I'm going to do is the top line, I'm going to put next to no pressure on. So this is a Wing Sung 698. And it's a gold 14K fine nib. As I said, you pay for that nib. It was 72 Australian dollars as opposed to the $24 for the steel version. For the ink, I'm going to put some more pressure on here so you can hopefully see line variation. It's Diamine Writer's Blood. Now, hopefully you can see there the difference in line variation that we're getting. And that's purely because it's a gold nib, whereas with the steel one, it was very stiff, very little in the way of line variation from that. I love this Writer's Blood. It is a fairly wet ink, I know that, but the colour is absolutely gorgeous. Let's look at drying times. So immediate. Although I said it's wet, it seems to have dried off a lot already. 10 seconds. Well, look at that. That's nice and dry. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat that 10-second test. So I'm going to put 10s and then go again. Yeah, again, it's dry, so it wasn't a fluke. 10 seconds and this is really nice and dry. This is going to be so awesome for note taking. And with that gold nib, it's a pleasure to use. It's really bouncy and springy. Again, we'll get more into that when we do our review at the end of the month. So this is the Wing Sung 698 with that 14K fine nib. Just going to get this paper out of the way and we'll take one final look at the pens. So here they are, the pens for February of 2022. A Bauer 51, a Keiko Edge, the Wing Sung 698 with the steel nib, the Hondian 960 with the Moonman M800 and the Wing Sung 698 with the gold nib. And if you can hear, I've managed to just finish this off before the neighbour starts cutting their grass. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What did you think about the neighbour's lawnmower? Do you know what's the funny side of that? About 10 seconds after I finished recording, he'd finished cutting his grass as well. So, never mind. What do you think about this month's pens? What pens are you going to be using this month? Do you have a theme? What theme are you using? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Well, it just helps to drive the suggestions that other people see through the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.